Hi there, welcome to the archives. So, this episode, I thought I would do a video on some of my streams of consciousness from yesterday. I don't have a lot formulated. I'm just gonna kind of read some of my notes from yesterday, but I did the online daily TV mass yesterday. Yesterday was what, December 17th. So it was Wednesday, December 17th, and the gospel reading was Matthew 1 verses 1 to 17. I'm going to play it. I don't know if you can hear it, but this is basically, excuse me, the genealogy of Jesus.
Abraham was the father of Isaac, Isaac the father of Jacob, Jacob the father of Judah and his brothers, Judah the father of Perez and Zerah by Tamar, Perez the father of Hezron, Hezron the father of Aram, Aram the father of Aminadab, Aminadab was the father of Nahson, Nahson the father of Salmon, Salmon the father of Boaz by Rahab, Boaz the father of Obed by Ruth, Obed the father of Jesse, and Jesse the father of King David.
There's more.
And David was the father of Solomon by the wife of Uriah, Solomon the father of Rehoboam, Rehoboam the father of Abijah, Abijah the father of Asaph, Asaph the father of Jehoshaphat, Jehoshaphat the father of Joram, Joram the father of Uzziah, Uzziah the father of Jotham, Jotham the father of Ahaz, Ahaz the father of Hezekiah, Hezekiah the father of Manasseh, Manasseh the father of Amos, the father of Josiah, and Josiah the father of Jeconiah and his brothers at the time of the deportation to Babylon. And after the deportation to Babylon, Jeconiah was the father of Salathiel, Salathiel the father of Jerubbaal, Jerubbaal the father of Abiud, Abiud the father of Eliakim, Eliakim the father of Adzor, Adzor the father of Zadok, Zadok the father of Achim, Achim the father of Eliud, Eliud the father of Eleazar, Eleazar the father of Mathan, Mathan the father of Jacob, and Jacob the father of Joseph, the husband of Mary, of whom Jesus was born, who is called the Messiah. So all the generations from Abraham to David are 14 generations. From David to the deportation to Babylon, 14 generations. And from the deportation to Babylon to the Messiah, 14 generations. The Gospel of the Lord.
So that was yesterday's reading, and my brain was just like, wah, wah, like I had so many questions. So it was just making me think about history in the Bible. So again, in the homily, that was Father Michael Coots, by the way. This is a daily TV online mass. This is how I've been going to church if I go to church. I haven't gone to church physically. I think the last time I went to church physically was 2003. I might have gone with one of my Airbnb hosts. She took me to mass. Before that, it was 2020, before I left Toronto. Or Ghana. Anyways, I haven't really been to church proper since like 2020. I used the daily TV mass. So it was a Catholic mass today, daily TV by the daily TV mass. So that was Father Michael Coots. So it got me thinking because in the homily, Father Michael Coots said that the Genesis, oh, I'll get to that later. So basically there was 14 generations. I think about how hard, as for me as a Ghanaian, I don't even know my paternal grandfather's full name. I don't even know what my maternal great grandfather is, right? Like, so to know 14 generations out is wild. But this is actually really on trend for like a lot of Palestinians. A lot of Palestinians I see online, they can date back their family genealogy, right? This is my grandfather, this is my great 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 great. Same. So this is Jesus's genealogy. Again, Jesus was born in Bethlehem, Nazareth. All of these are modern day Palestine, right? But Jesus was obviously Jewish, and so it goes through all of these 14 generations before we even get to Jesus. And you can hear the name, right? Aram, Solomon, Rehoboam, Uzziah, Joram, right? Abijah, Asa, Ahaz, Hezekiah. So you know that this is folks from the Middle East, whether Hebrew, Jewish, right? We're talking about the Holy Land. My question was like, again, is the Bible a trusted, reliable source for evidence-based data? We see it used with Herodias' story, for instance, right? So if we believe Herodias' story is true, then we believe that the Bible is true, because this is where we get our history from. But then again, even in Herodias' story, you see Dr. Joyce being like, Matthew and Mark got it wrong in terms of her life. So then that was the first thing. A lot of Christians would be like, you can't ask. Of course, the Bible is a true source, right? It's the only real source. It's the only true factual book and ever written. And so there's 14 generations. How many years was that before Jesus? This is what my question was, right? I asked Chat GPT, I think no, I asked Gemini, did King David rule? It said that King David ruled roughly around 1040 BCE to 970 BCE. So you see that as we get closer to when Jesus is born, it actually counts down, right? The further away you move from Jesus, the higher the number gets. But then once we start with Jesus, then it starts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. On the other end, before Jesus was born, it actually counts down, up in the opposite way. So King David died at 970 BCE, but he was said to be born in 1040 BCE. So the numbers were actually higher when he was born than when he died. And as you see, we get closer to Jesus, they start counting down. So again, my question is, around this time, if you remember from the Buddhism one we did, these were around the same times, right? I think Buddhism came around 970 or 500 BCE or something like that. Let's check the book. But these are the questions I'm asking. So, when was Adam and Eve? In what year did Adam and Eve happen? Right? If Genesis was written while King David was alive, that means that was before 970 BCE. 970 BCE, there was folks living in Africa. There were folks living in um, Asia. I'm trying to find. Bear with me. I'm trying to find. It was a Butsu 338. I think it was a Butsu where we talked about the so again, Islam came, I believe, years, was it 600? Sorkatani, Razia. Where's a Butsu? I can't find a Butsu. I was trying to get the dates of I was trying to get the dates of Buddhism. I should be better prepared. I apologize. Next time I will. But all to say is like there were things going on around this time, right? So if Genesis was written around King David's time, that would have been 1040 BCE. But remember, David was not the first. It didn't start with David. It started with Abraham. And it didn't even start with Abraham because Abraham would have come from somewhere. So this is thousands, almost 3,000 years before Jesus was born. That's a lot of history. 3,000. We haven't even. It's only 25 years since Jesus was born, because we're in 2025. Next year will be 2026 years since Jesus was born. So we haven't even. And look at how much has happened since year one, year zero, right? You have to think that all happened before Jesus was even born. People had a way of living their lives, right? Before Christianity was even born. And so my thing then is where did the dinosaurs? Where did the dinosaurs fit in all this? This is where I need to go back. But I just wanted to share some of my thoughts and where I get confused. And if you can have answers for me, I would love for someone to give me some answers. I'm gonna also do this as I unravel these stories. I'm gonna do some more. I'm thinking of doing a Bible study. I need a Bible study for the woke girls because I can't handle some of the other stuff. And they need to be a little bit more woke, right? Like, are there conscious girls who do Bible studies and like to like pick it apart also, not just to be like I want people who are critical, who could be critically analyze the Bible. I need to do a Bible study because I'm getting confused. Where does the Mesopotamia era come into all of this? Where is all of this in relation to like the pyramids being built in Egypt? These are my questions, right? Um, what were the Africans doing 42 generations before Jesus was born? Did the Buddhists hear about Christ? These are some of the questions I asked, right? What does all of this have to do with the Silk Road, the Silk Trade Road that connected like China all the way to into Europe? Did people travel and find out? I'm sure it's in the Bible, right? Again, like read the Bible. I do. Maybe I need to read the Bible like a book and start from finish to end. I'm considering that. Maybe 2026, I'm considering reading the Bible from start to finish because it's just a whole bag of mix up. If Abraham and David and Jesus were all from the Holy Land, i.e., the areas in the Bible, we also hear about Syria, we hear about Lebanon, we hear about Jordan. Most of it takes place in Palestine, also in Egypt, right? So we hear a lot about the middle, quote unquote, what would be considered the Middle East now. Um, we also hear about North Africa in the Bible, right? Like I said earlier, you hear about Libya, Algeria's in the Bible. Um, Again, what was going on in Chad? What was going on in Chad at that time? Chad is in Africa, for those who don't know. What was going on in Somaliland? What was going on in Bujumbura, Burundi? Right? People were living lives. Were these stories in the Bible? That's what I want to know. What did the Bible say? I remember from Pentecost Sunday how it was a punishment that God created multiple tongues. But before that, it was assumed that everybody spoke the same language. No, because people would have spoken different languages in China. And so that's my confusion. That's another question I have. I remember the story from Pentecost where the holy fire, there was like fighting, there was something, temple got burnt down, and then God gave us the holy tongue. So that was like all of a sudden people were speaking different languages, they couldn't understand each other. I need to refresh my memory on that Bible story. But is that true? And if so, what language are the trunk sisters speaking, for instance? And of course, this all comes later, but like, what were the other languages? I know there was in the Bible, there's Amharic, um, there's Hebrew, I believe, in the Bible. What are some of the other languages in the Bible? Right? This is where I need the Bible nerds to tell us. I saw Christina's video on. I'm getting off topic, but these are some of the questions I have. Right? Did we talk about, is there any history at all from the Central African Republic, Mozambique, Botswana, Malawi, Lesotho, right? What was going on in these places? What did Earth look like then? What were the tectonic plates look like when Christ was born in 1 BCE? This is where I gotta go back and learn the geography of it, because I don't exactly remember ever learning about the geography of these times, right? Weren't they way more connected? If it's not documented, does it mean it didn't happen? The printing press technically started in China, from my understanding. How did the printing press spread to other parts of the world, right? Because I've always thought that the printing press started in Europe. It actually started in China. Again, they didn't tell me that when I was growing up. I just learned that this year. Literally this year, I learned that the printing started in China. How did it catch on? How did it spread? How are people traveling? Were they using donkeys, mules? We learn in Boudica's story that they rode chariot with horses. What was in Jesus' story? Jesus, they traveled on a donkey. Remember in the manger. But these kinds of things. You also have to remember there wasn't any electricity. So when we tell these stories, we assume that they had lights. but I just recently listened to the interview with Jay Shetty did with Channing Nicholas, and Channing was talking about how they didn't have electricity then, right? So like the night sky was like pure magic and brilliance. It just lit up. And you have to remember they didn't have electricity. So like when they're talking about palaces and concubines and all of these things, we have to remember it wasn't electricity. They were lighting stuff, right? They had torches and so on and so forth. That's something I always have to forget. Jesus wasn't born in an inn, right? There was no power in electricity when he was born. Um, yeah, so these are just some of my questions. So for the Christian folks, if you can help me answer some of this, what does the Bible say about people? Again, it goes through Jesus's. It said that genealogy went through men, the fathers. My culture, for instance, we are matrilineal. So like traditionally, we go through women. It's not through men. So this is where I'm like, so how come now I have to do your way of life, which goes through men, but my ancestors didn't. Our genealogy wasn't through men. It was through them, our mothers, not our fathers, right? Again, how did your way become the right, the best, the most right way? Right way? That's my question. This is where I push back a little. Like, how is it that you are better than my ancestors? Because you wrote the Bible? Because you have Jesus Christ? Okay, okay, fair. I rock with Jesus. I absolutely love Jesus. I think he's the biggest social justice warrior. I'm down with Jesus. And also, what about other folks, right? So Genesis was the first book of the Bible, and it was written. Father Michael Coote said it was written during the monarchy of King David. So is the Bible's first chapter was written roughly 3,000 years ago, or was it 1,000 years ago, before Jesus? Um, does it mean patriarchy was a thing then, right? We learned that the Roman Empire infused more of a patriarchal system later on, but does that mean that that same patriarchal system was in play during King David's time, right? It sounds like yes. And obviously a man also wrote it. So was there a little bit of an agenda? That's the question. Was there, are you just simply stating what your way of life was? Men are the head. Um, is it women are the neck, or women came from the ribs? Is all of that informed by your situated, very specific local context? And now, how have you convinced the whole world that your way was right when it was just a fragment of Earth at that time? Um, because again, some of us believe that women were just as equal as men. We had a lot of respect for men and women. Um, right? How did the tribal societies become seen? What was it about the tribal societies that make them seem demonic? Why all of a sudden is worshiping, seeing Christ in everything a bad thing? Isn't it a good thing to be able to see Christ in your cat? To be like, I'm gonna treat you just as good as I would my creator? And they're like, no, a cat is small girl like you, right? Um, these are some of the questions. Again, someone was saying that in Father Michael Coote said King David was seen as like one of the best kings. He was revered for being like like he had integrity, but Father Michael Coote was like this is also a man who was murderous. He did adultery. Like he just was actually not a great person. But out of the times, I guess he was a good person. The same thing. I'll get into a future recording. Right now, I'm learning about Plotina, and she was married to Emperor Trajan. Same thing. Emperor Trajan was one of the best emperors. He's top five of Roman emperors, right? But like he was allowing people to extort money, and you're just like, is the bar so low that like when somebody decides to have integrity, then like they're praised as being like this holier than thou kind of a thing. So I've just been thinking about Jesus's genealogy and history and what we have documented and how much we have documented and who documented this lineage. That's a question I'm gonna go into, right? Who documented this genealogy of Jesus? How did they know to go that far back, right? What was Abraham's story? What was Isaac and Jacob's story? The Bible goes into that. Do we know about Joram's story? What about Mathan, Jacob? We hear about Joseph. We hear very little about Joseph, but all we know is like I know he was a carpenter. He was married to Mary. Apparently, he didn't have sex with her, and they had a baby. I'm gonna end it there. But are you a Christian? Were you raised Christian? Do you read the Bible? Have you ever read the Bible? When you read the Bible, does it leave you with more questions than answers? Do you have somebody who you can turn to with these questions? Are they able to help? Are they helpful in helping you answer the questions? Do they answer in a way that makes you feel validated about your Christianity? That makes you said, yes, I'm going to continue walking with Christ because the way you answer my question lets me know that I'm believing and following something that is good and right and moral and just. Um, do they just tell you to shut up and stop asking questions and just to believe it? Does that make you want to stay? Um, what is your religion? What is your relationship with your religion like? I often don't really get into what my relationship with Christianity is like. Like I said, I'll go to online mass. I pray the rosary every morning, every night. Throughout the day, sometimes I'll say the Our Father and the Hail Mary. But again, I saw a video today. Christina was talking about how the ways in which some Christians move it is giving neurodivergent, right? The way they're so obsessed with the Bible, the way they read it fanatically. If it was somebody who was that obsessed with trains, or what was the example she was giving? She'd be like, you'd be considered a nerd, right? The repetition, again, full disclosure, that's part of why I love saying the rosary. I do find that repetition very soothing. It does help my way of brain. It does help the way in which my neurology is set up, right? I've always said that. Yeah. I love doing Divine Mercy before bed because it helps me sleep. The repetition, the humming, it helps my nervous system. It helps me shut me down for the night. I love that before I go to bed. I'm asking God to have mercy on us and on the whole world, right? But to say that like I do Divine Mercy and the Rosary solely because of my Catholicism, it wouldn't be true. A part of it is because it really is a repetition is something I really love, right? This is why as a Catholic, there is a lot of repetition. I like that there's a function up, down. People don't like it. I personally appreciate that about Catholicism. You know what to expect. There's a routine, there's a structure to it. Here comes the first reading. First reading is only said Monday to Friday. Saturday they do Sunday Mass, then you get two readings, first and second reading, then you get the gospel, you get the gospel every service. Like I know what to expect. And I think if a lot of our elders were being true, it does help them with their own neurodiversity. I see aunties who wake up and go to mass every morning, but they don't, I wouldn't say, if they're being honest, it's a routine. It becomes part of their structure. They go to church on Sunday because it's a routine, it becomes their structure. It's not solely because of God and Christ. Maybe it is, but I think there's a lot of it where it is familiar, it is soothing, it is healing, it becomes our obsession, right? When some people see it as a healthy obsession. I read the Bible every single day, right? If I was to read something else, like Christina said, it would be seen as nerdy, right? Oh, now you have autism, Dorothy, right? And she's like, you're stimming. The repetition, that's stimming. But again, that's also, are we now pathologizing that? I don't mind with the pathologizing because we pathologize everything. So why does the Bible and Christianity off limits? Pathologize it too then. But yeah, I'll just say is this year I think I might do more of these kind of posts where I'm just working through my own Christianity and I might be sharing it. So if others are going through the same thing, if you can help provide me some sort of I don't know what, but I plan on staying. I'm Catholic. I plan on staying. I'm planning on leaving. But again, the way in which I perform my Catholicism might look very different than my mom or my aunties, right? They might consider me to be a little bit more witchy, even though I think that's why Catholicism gets a bad rap for being witchy, right? We worship false idols because oh my God, how dare you say the Rosary and pray to Mother Mary? Oh, worst crime. You're going to hell now because you worship false idols. I'm not like that strict with my Christianity. So there are people who are way more extreme than me. And again, I'm open to learning about other religions. I don't see other religions as beneath Christianity. I don't see Buddhism as less. I don't see Hindu as less. I don't see Judaism as less. I don't see Islam as less. I don't think Christianity is more superior. I don't do the whole white supremacy thing. I don't do the superiority thing. So a lot of people think like, oh, you're making everything. Pick a side. Pick a side. God doesn't like lukewarm. Well, don't worry about me and my God. I'm okay. I have a beautiful relationship with my Creator. Don't worry about us. Worry about yourself, right? Thank you so much. Worry about yourself. Worry about yourself. Thank you. Pray for me. I appreciate the prayers. Pray I'm saved, but like worry about yourself, right? And so I think sometimes we have to remind ourselves that not everybody does our religion our way. We don't need everybody to do it our way. We don't have to force everybody to do things our way, right? That's like a very evangelical way. We are the right type of Christians. Okay, enjoy it. See you at the gates of heaven. Hope we both get in, right? So I'm gonna end it there because this is just really a streams of consciousness, just ranting. But hopefully, I think I'm gonna post this in 2026. So if you're seeing this from the future, hello, in the future. Thank you for sticking around. Please like and subscribe. What's the other one? And share if this resonates. If not, that's okay as well too. Take what you need. And until next time, in solidarity.